guitar I'm making for this course will have a rosewood fretboard and 21 frets, and I've trued and squared this fretboard, the rough blank on the jointer, very much like the neck, so refer to that episode if you are not sure how to do that, but it's basically the same procedure. And if you don't have a jointer, then you'll have to do it by hand, and then you can have a look at episode number 14 of the course for the classical or Spanish guitar. I'm going to clamp this into this device here, and I'll show you in detail in a second, and then I'm going to cut out the fret slots using this saw here. I'm going to show you how in a very easy way you can drill the holes for the dots in a perfectly straight line now. The owner of the guitar we're building for this course, he doesn't need dots in the top side of the rosewood fretboard that you've seen until now. So I'm showing you on this ebony one. First you draw a center line right down the middle of the fretboard, and to make sure that it's perpendicular to the frets, measure from the side that was against the fence when you sawed the slots. The slots, by the way, are 2 millimeters deep now. This is not exactly deep enough, but all will be revealed at a later stage. Yeah, so then on the side that was against the fence, mark the positions of the dots, and so it's exactly between 3 and 4 for the third position, between 5 and 6 for the fifth position, etc. And for the first position marker that I'm going to drill, I've marked that on the center line also. This plywood board here has a fence that I set from the center of the drill bit, the exact same distance as the center line is from the side of the fretboard. Now when I drill the first hole, I'll transfer the position of the line of the fretboard onto the fence. And so now all I have to do is slide the fretboard until the next position line is exactly in line with the one on the fence. So I'll start the drill, and then After you've drilled the holes for the inlays, mark your width at the nut and at the 12th fret, and so you can taper the fretboard with a bandsaw. Subtract the width of a binding if you're going to use one. I'm going to use a 1.5mm or about 1/16 inch wide binding on this fretboard, so I subtracted that from the total width of the fretboard. After we've curved the fretboard, the fret slots are less deep on the outside than they are down the center. So we're going to have to deepen those slots a bit, and the reason we didn't do that before is I don't want to remove any more wood than strictly necessary. So the fret slots would be too deep down the center if we did that before on the mitre saw. Let's see, so I just clamped my fretboard to a table like this, and I have a fret saw with a depth stop. So I can just one or two light passes through the fret slots is ample to have those frets seat really nicely. So just like once you've got the slots to depth, you can clamp your, whoops, that's a lot of glue. You can clamp your fretboard to a board like this, to which the glue won't stick anyway, and then with just a bit of glue, like so, put the binding to the fretboard. I like to do that now because I have a nice way of drilling the holes for the dots that come in the side later, so that's why I do it now, but you don't have to. You can clamp the fretboard to the neck first and then put the binding. But this, for my method, this is easier. When the bindings are glued to the fretboard, I use 220 and 320 grit paper, the adhesive kind that sticks to the radius beams that we use, and then I finish with 5-0, so very fine steel wool. Stick your fretboard with double-sided tape maybe to the bench, or with a vacuum clamp like this, and then send the bindings flush with the surface of the fretboard. The setup you see here enables me to align the dots, or the holes for the dots, perfectly. I use a router bit rather than a drill bit to drill the holes, to avoid skating of the drill bit, so the holes will end up in a perfectly straight line relative to the bottom of the fretboard. And now I have a depth stop at about 2 millimeters or 5/64, so I just take my fretboard, put it in alignment with the drill bit, and just drill the holes. Let's see.